Hi folks, it's Andy. I hope you're having a fantastic day. Welcome to this week's Kendo rant. I've got some brilliant questions for you. Today we'll jump into them right in a minute. But first of all, don't forget, if you do like the videos that we put out, completely free, by the way, if they do bring you any value whatsoever, make sure that you support the channel by doing your shopping at KendoStar.com. KendoStar, of course, is my website that sells fantastic, amazing Kendo equipment. So get over to KendoStar.com. If you don't believe me how great it is, just have a look at some of the reviews. Another thing as well, some people have been asking us about Kendo t-shirts. We've got a few things that you can get now. We've got a Teespring store. You can probably see below this video, there's a link to the store, some of the products and stuff like that. They're just simple designs. I've got a couple of samples here that came in the post. This one's a bit of a spoof on the Frankie Says Relax t-shirt design from the 80s. This one says Sensei Says Relax, because Sensei's always telling you to relax your shoulders. Design. We've got another one that's like... It's got the KendoStar logo on it there, but on the back, I really like this one. This one says, Keizoku wa chikara nari. So that means perseverance is power, yeah, which is really, really important concept in Kendo, right? Keep on trying, even though it's tough. So I think that's a really cool one. We've got a couple of other designs on there as well. So if you do like what we're doing and you don't need, something specifically for Kendo, or you'd like maybe a Kendo t-shirt, like I say, we've got a Teespring store, which is just another way that you can support us really and, get something in return for your support. Okay, so let's get into these questions. First one, in Shinsa, why is it so important that Kendoka be anonymous by removing their zekken and covering their name embroidery? Most of the martial arts don't bother, and most senseis I know can recognize their own students without identifying marks. Okay, so it is important that their Shinsei is done anonymously for basically reasons of fairness. It doesn't matter if senseis can recognize their students for the most part, especially at like national shinsa in Japan, for example, which are the biggest shinsa. It's rare actually that you're doing the shinsa for your own student. The grading person isn't necessarily doing it for the for their own student anyway. So it's not because you might give your own student preference necessarily. I mean, that's one aspect of it. But the other reason it's important for it to be anonymous is because it might not just be for a specific person, but for, maybe, this person's from that dojo, that's a really strong dojo. So they've already got a preconception before they start grading the Kendo. So it's to avoid anything like that, to be honest. I know that obviously afterwards you take your men off, you do the kata and you can see your face and stuff, but it's just, the idea is to give everybody as fair a chance as possible without giving any sort of chance. And I don't think that, I'm not saying that the Shinsei and the people doing the grading would ever be biased at all, but just to make sure everybody's on an even playing field without a shadow of a doubt, that's why we carry it out in anonymity. So yeah, and I support it. I think it's a good idea. And also, actually, for the people doing the grading, if you're grading and you see that your opponent is someone particularly famous or they're from a particularly famous dojo, it could disturb your own mentality as well. It's not good to do that, but still, it's possible that could happen. So for the grading purpose, that sort of thing should be removed. Of course, it's not perfect. Yeah, it's not perfect. Yes, you can recognize, especially the super famous players, it's really obvious who they are, even without their zekken and their embroidery or whatever. It's often really obvious who they are, but still, the point is that everybody is supposed to be sort of equal. Next one. I notice when I'm doing suburi, I tend to look to the side when swinging down a lot of the time. Am I alone in this? What does it mean, and is it something I should correct? So when you're swinging down, you look to the left. You mean like turn your head to the left? Or... Yeah, probably best to try to train yourself out of that habit. When you're doing suburi, whether it's joge buri, or striking like shomen suburi, I've got a Bokuto here actually. You should be looking sort of straight ahead towards. Even if you're swinging all the way down, you shouldn't be looking to the side this way. Okay, seeing that sort of thing a lot. I know some people that sort of look up this way when they're doing it as well. It's not a good habit. Okay, you should be looking forward towards an imaginary target. Okay, you need to examine the position of the kensen when you finish your strike. Okay, as well. That's quite important too. Okay. Next, with the kiddie Bokuto on its way to me, I was wondering if you would do a video or give any instruction regarding its use, mainly how it's used and how to identify if you're using it correctly or improving. So that was a kiddie Bokuto that I was just using now. You use it in the same way you use any other suburi item or your shinai when you're doing suburi. However, you really have to concentrate on, I've got some really creaky floorboards here. I'm sorry if the mic's picking that up, but you have to really concentrate on swinging the shinai, or the Bokuto, sorry, the kiddie Bokuto, with your left hand, okay? So if you bring your right hand in, it'll go all over the place, okay? And it'll sort of wobble and stuff like this. What you want to try and do, I'm trying not to hit anything, but swing it this way so it comes to a complete stop. Hitting my green screen there, okay? So it comes to a complete stop. This way, okay, and not like this, okay? That's one part of it, okay? And the other thing is we want to concentrate on moving in the pattern of ichibyoshi, okay? This is very light, so you can swing it quite quickly. So you can swing it, bam, together like this, bam, 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 okay? I know I'm not on the screen full, but the idea is not kind of like 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, but ichibyoshi, okay? Does that make sense? Yeah, they're good things that you can use the kiddie Bokuto for, okay? Next one. Non-Kendo question. What does the Imperial Police do and why do they wear white? So the Imperial Police, I believe, I'm no expert on this, but I believe their main job is to protect the Imperial household, protect the Emperor and his family, basically the royal family of Japan. And why do they wear white? They do generally, when they're doing Kendo, they always wear white, dogi and hakama. Their boga is usually normal blue, but they almost always wear white, kendogi and hakama, even in the normal practice, in the shiai as well. And I don't know exactly why. I'm pretty sure it's just tradition and probably because they represent the imperial household, I expect. Next one. Hi, Andy. I'm aware that Munetsuki was banned as it was dangerous for kids, but Munetsuki is used in common Butsukari Geiko exercise and good for getting beginners more comfortable with ski when they are getting nervous of striking the neck. What are your thoughts on it for normal Keiko and in Shinsa? First off, Munetsuki wasn't removed, wasn't banned because it was dangerous for kids. Ski was never practiced by kids, whether it was Munetsuki or the Nodotsuki, the normal ski. Excuse me. It was removed because it was too easy to score the points against Jordan, I think is the reason. And even against Chudan, I think it's probably easy to score the Munetsuki. So I think, in fact, one of the reasons that I think Jordan got really wasn't very popular is because it was just so easy to score the Munetsuki. Munetsuki, by the way, is when you ski the chest. As the mune of the door, the chest protector of the door, you used to be able to score the ski on that area as well. So yeah, it wasn't anything to do with kids actually. Kids were never allowed to do any of the ski techniques. And the reason kids aren't allowed to do ski techniques even now is because it is dangerous for kids, but not in the same way. I often come out and say this about ski not being as dangerous as people make out. And the reason it is dangerous for kids, but not really for adults, is because in junior shiai and kids shiai in Japan, that's primary school or elementary school and junior high school, all right? So that's kids between the age of 6 and 15, okay? They are literally like the shiai where they're literally like the size of the competitors is so different. Yeah, you could have a 6-year-old against a 12-year-old. It's not impossible for that to happen. It's quite rare for that extreme. But you could have a 12-year-old against a 15-year-old, and some 12-year-olds are really small and some 15-year-olds are really big, and that's why. Okay, that's why the sort of ski thing is like that. Anyway, I'm going well off topic from the question. So about the Munetsuki, I don't use it to teach beginners ski either. I teach beginners to do the ski towards the tsukidare, okay, the correct area. There's no reason that beginners should feel uncomfortable using doing ski towards the ago. It's perfectly safe if they're wearing the bogu, okay? The bogu is adequate. Well, KendoStar bogu certainly is. Don't want anyone complaining to me saying it's not safe when they bought it from some cheap bogu from some other place. But generally, the bogu is adequate to protect you for the ski towards the neck. So I generally use ski towards the neck as a normal practice method. I don't teach to do Munetsuki, and I don't recommend doing it in the normal keiko or in shinsai either. Because it's not a valid target. So if you do it in shinsai, it just looks like you missed the ski. And in the keiko, it's, you know, you could technically argue as well in the shiai that it's not like it's technically, it could be kind of hansoku because you're intentionally attacking a non-target area. I think it'd be a bit of a stretch to do someone for that. But my advice would be to just forget about Munetsuki. Okay, next one. Now that Japan has reopened, what's the status with custom-made orders? So this is a KendoStar related question, obviously. Essentially, in Japan, they've lifted the state of emergency nationwide. So look, yeah, I mean, custom orders they're not really affected, certainly not on the manufacturing side. And they haven't been affected on the manufacturing side for some months now, actually. They've been able to continue because Japan never went into a full lockdown like a lot of the other places did. People still went to work for the most part. And the workshops certainly did. So it's probably been a few months now that the workshop side of things has been working just normally, okay? With that side of things. The thing that is still a little bit difficult, and it's getting better every day, is the air shipping routes from Asia, okay? So whether that's some of the stuff in our workshops that are in other Asian countries, not just in Japan, but from Japan here and from other Asian countries as well, the air routes are much reduced than what they were before. It's been quite hard for us to get cargo space to ship stuff over. So sometimes there's been delays because of that. That is still happening from time to time. But like I say, it's getting better and better and better as things progress. And if anyone wants to place a custom order now, it's not going to affect anything because by the time this stuff's ready, I'm more than confident it's going to be just smoothly running back to normal in terms of that. Okay. Next one. Over the years, I've noticed many martial arts in general have become softer, including Kendo. I recently watched an old video of a sensei in karate beating a student with a shinai. Is it just a sign of the times, or is it done for health and safety, or is it just me? No, it's not just you. Things have become less aggressive in that sense, I think. It still exists in Japan, that sort of, hard, tough love. I've talked about it before on the channel, actually, about tough love. It still exists, not in the way that it did probably like 30, 40 years ago. And it is less and less. It is becoming less and less because, people are more sensitive to it, especially parents are less willing to allow their children to be subject to it. So those sort of teaching methods are becoming more and more obsolete. Whether that's for the good or bad, I'm not going to comment. There's arguments for both. It will have an effect on how Kendo is practiced and potentially on how Kendo changes in the future. Again, whether that's for the better or the worse, I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. But yeah, I don't think it's just you. I do think it's a sign of the times. I don't think it's a health and safety thing. Certainly not in Japan anyway, because that's health and safety doesn't really exist to the extent that it does here. So I've never like been to a dojo in Japan where there's like there's a risk assessment and that sort of stuff. So yeah, there's nothing like that. But I think it's just that these days it's expected that sort of behavior from teachers is reduced. Okay, next one. Hi Andy, do you have a sensei you are trying to model your kendo after? Someone you would like, oh, I want my kendo to look like that. Yes, lots. There's lots. One of the most influential senseis for me kendo wise has been probably Susumu Takanabe. I'd never say my kendo looks like his. I'd love it if it did, but he's very influential to me. But I take inspiration from lots of kendo guys. I really like Yuichi Yoneya as well. His kendo is just beautiful. There's obviously all the greats. Miyazaki Masahiro is fantastic, of course. So there's parts that I've taken from everything. Of course, Naoki Eiga Sensei is one of my all-time favorites. I don't necessarily copy his kendo so much because I think we're quite different in terms of the way the way our body shape is, and just the way my kendo is. But it doesn't mean I don't take inspiration from it. I certainly do, and even other players as well. Yuya Takenoichi, Shoji Teramoto, those really tall players, Daiki Kiwada, they're really tall guys, much taller than me actually. I love their kendo and the things I take from it, but at the same time, I wouldn't look to emulate it because my body doesn't work like theirs does in a way. So probably I'd say that's why Takanabe Sensei is been the most influential, just because we're exactly the same height, similar sort of we used to be the same weight, but I put on some pounds, but I guess that's the answer I would go for. Next one. This is for Kendoka who are in healthcare. When do you plan on returning to Keiko? As soon as the dojo reopens, 2 weeks after your last contact with a known COVID case or after the vaccine is developed. Okay, so obviously I'm not in healthcare, so I don't know anything about that. So I realized this question isn't for me, but you posted it on a thread where I was asking questions for me to answer in this show. So that's why I've read it out. So I'm going to answer it anyway, even though I'm not in healthcare. I plan on returning to Keiko as soon as I'm able to, in terms of as soon as it's literally possible for me to have Keiko safely, following government guidelines. As soon as the dojo reopens, that is, because I won't be opening my dojo until I know it's safe to, and that the government has, said that it's safe for us to do so. If I had contact with a known COVID case, then yes, I would take at least 2 weeks rest before I joined it again, because I believe that's what you're supposed to do, unless I was advised otherwise. And in terms of, or after a vaccine is developed, it depends how long a vaccine takes. I don't know what's going to happen first out of all of that. So I don't know. Next one. Andy, I'm just learning about the differences between the Nihon Kendo Kata and the Bokuto ni yoru Kihon waza keiko ho. Bracket, is there a shorter way to say it? I was wondering if you can give me your insights on the practical differences and which series would be better to study in the early phases of your Kendo career. Cheers. So the Nihon Kendo Kata is based on the sort of Kenjutsu forms, the older forms. So the less directly practical towards Shinai Kendo. So you're not going to learn very like waza from practicing those forms that you're going to be able to then apply into the into your jigeko or something with the bogu. You're not going to be able to just do like copy those kata into the, when you put your bogu on. The Bokuto ni yoru Kiyomazu keikoho is a different set. It follows a similar etiquette pattern, and it uses a Bokuto, and it uses actual Kendo techniques, all right? So techniques that are designed to be able to be pretty much directly ported over to use with the Shinai. They were developed to help teachers that didn't necessarily have Kendo experience teach Kendo in their schools when Kendo was part of the sports curriculum. So that they are by default more practical and probably easier to pick up, and they are more directly relatable to actual Shinai Kendo, if that makes sense. So probably it's worth, it depends in the current situation. If you're sort of in lockdown and you don't have, you're not able to go to a dojo and practice, then from the time being, I think the Bokuto ni yoru Kiyomazu keikoho is probably a good resource for you to practice during this time if you're still at the beginning of your Kendo journey, and worry about the kata later. In terms of a shorter way to say it, I've heard people call it Bokuto Kihon, or just Bokuto Kihon waza, that sort of thing. But yeah, I always call it the Bokuto ni yoru Kiyomazu keikoho. So. Anyway, next one. This is the last one. When we do suburi, I know we concentrate on everything at once to make it correct, but I've found, for me personally, that if I concentrate on my left hand position and sort of ignore the fact I'm holding a shinai, everything with the cut seems to fall into place. So my question is, when you do suburi, is there something you find you concentrate on that seems to make the whole thing done together? So I know exactly what you mean. So what you're talking about is when you're doing your suburi, you kind of just concentrate on your left hand and almost forget that you're swinging a shinai, then everything sort of comes together. I've had that experience too. I wouldn't say there's something specifically like that for me. I'd say that instead, I'm just focusing on, when I do suburi, the thing I'm mainly focusing on is making the cut to the proper height, to the proper datotsu, striking properly, and most importantly is keeping my feet straight and bringing my left foot up quickly for kikentai no ichi and fast hikitsuke ashi. They're the things I really concentrate on when I'm doing the suburi, rather than anything else. So I wouldn't say there's one thing that I sort of concentrate on and it all comes together, but I can relate to what you're saying. And if that works for you right now, then carry on doing it. I don't think that it's a bad thing. Okay, so that's it for today. Thank you very much, everyone, for your questions. I hope you enjoyed the show. Don't forget to support the channel by shopping at KendoStar or buying some t-shirts. There's links in the description down below. If you've got a question, if you'd like to post a question, there's a link in the description as well for the Kendo Show Early Access group. That is a great group to be in. It's free to join, of course. That's where I take pretty much all of these questions from. It's a fantastic forum for discussion. There's thousands of Kendoka in there, literally, from all over the world and all different levels, going right up to like 7th Dan. So it's a great forum to be in, because you don't just get my input. When you post a question in there, other people will answer it as well. Yeah, that's it. Thanks for joining me, and I'll see you all next week. Thanks a lot.